Welcome to the Selling Show, where we unpack, repack, and break down exactly how top experts sell their ideas, their value, and their services. This is your host, David Newman, and you are in the right place if you want better clients, bigger deals, and higher fees.
You know, cold calling is dead. I mean, it's just over. No, wait a second. Cold calling is brilliant. Everyone should be cold calling. Holy smokes. Cold calling, it's easy. It's simple. You should spend all your time cold calling. No, outsource it. Hire someone. Wait a minute. We got to bring a close to this crazy. Luckily, Nancy Calabrese is here. Nancy, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
So your company is called One of a Kind Sales, and I'm looking at your website right now. The immediate subhead is "We love cold calling." How did you start this empire, and what were some interesting stops along the way?
Interesting. So I got my start in inside sales decades ago as a headhunter. And it was during the days where there were no fax machines, there were no recruiters, you only had the phone. And I learned I had a gift, getting people to open up to me because I just was curious and I asked questions. I had specialized in insurance, so my name became well known in that industry. Fast forward to the middle 2000s, a client of mine asked us to launch an inside sales department because their producers hated doing what we love doing, which is cold calling. And by the way, they're not unique. Most people hate doing what we do.
Yeah.
And so we hired 2.5 people to do prospecting and appointment setting. And in the first year, we set 300 appointments for that team. And I realized, like, ka-ching, this is something not only are we good at, but I believe the business community needs. And so I sold that company and I formed, first it was One of a Kind Search, then I changed it to One of a Kind Solutions, and then finally we remorphed to One of a Kind Sales. So, typically when I'm on the phone with potential customers, I often hear that they're just frustrated, they don't have enough qualified leads in their pipeline, or they're annoyed that they do have a sales team that just won't pick up the phone. And then finally, they're concerned they're not going to hit their new business goals. So we come in as like that inside sales engine, from data management to script development to launching the campaign and scheduling quality appointments at the right time. So our tagline happens to be, we love cold calling so our clients don't have to do it.
Right. I want to kind of take this back to, I guess it was either Vince Lombardi or one of these football coaches that says, "Gentlemen, this is a football." So what is cold calling? What's your definition of cold calling? And then talk to us a little bit about why it's a lost art also.
Cold calling is just phone networking. It's reaching out to somebody that you have never met before, shaking hands via the phone, and determining at the time of the call, is there a reason for this party to be scheduled on our client's calendar? We're very lucky. We happen to be professionally sales trained in Sandler sales methodology, which teaches consultative selling. So each and every call is very non-salesy. It's a discovery call. We need to determine at the time of the conversation, is this person experiencing the pains that our client can, solve? And if so, we get them to talk about it. And then after they've spoken about it for a while, we then pivot to schedule the appointment. And, many companies in my space have a bad rap because, they complain the appointments aren't qualified or there are no shows. And because we study the art of the cold call every week. I have everybody in my company involved in the training, including my admin staff. We have very few no-shows, very few, unqualified appointments. So I'm really proud of them. And, think about it. They're in a no world. My people are in a no world. And we take every no as, wow, I'm getting closer to my yes. So very supportive with one another. Often, in a group feed, we'll post stupid GIFs or funny GIFs, to keep
Right.
the enthusiasm going throughout the day. And we celebrate their successes.
Yeah, for sure.
Mhm.
Tell us a little bit. I'm really curious. I think our listeners are curious also. Give me a cross section of the kind of companies that are your clients. That's number one. And then what kind of companies are they calling into through your services?
Well, we play business to business,
Mhm.
and we are really industry agnostic. As long as our reach is to another business out there, we can be a resource. Who are their clients? It varies, from company to companies, but most often we play in the C-suite. They either want us to go right to the owners or the COO or the CFO, somebody with authority to make decisions. And you asked me something that I didn't answer in the earlier question about what have been the bumps
Yeah.
in cold calling. And, social media has done a lot of damage to the industry that I'm in. People feel that, oh no, I don't need to pick up the phone. I could just do email marketing. I can do LinkedIn marketing. But I'm telling all of you folks who are listening or watching this that if you don't add this channel to your marketing effort, you're leaving money on the table. That's
Yeah.
plain and simple.
So I'm curious because there is some missing clarity sometimes
Mhm.
around a professional services sale. So let's
Okay.
say we're selling consulting services, we're selling training services. Inside of a target company,
Mhm.
the person with the authority sometimes doesn't have the title. The person with the title sometimes doesn't have the authority. And
Right.
I always equate this to imagine that we're selling plumbing supplies to a plumbing distributor. The plumbing manufacturer of the plumbing supplies, they know exactly who their buyer is at the distribution company. They know exactly who their buyer is, probably even at the end client, which is the facilities manager
Right.
or the COO or someone like that. When it comes to professional services,
Mhm.
it can be a black box. Like, I don't know who I'm calling. I don't know if they have the responsibility. I don't know if they have the authority. So when it's more of a vague sale like that, what are some
Mhm.
of the research methodologies that you guys use to find the real economic buyer?
Well, I mean, we simply ask, am I speaking with the right person? I'm not
Mhm.
sure you're the right person I need to speak to, but if you give me 30 seconds, I'll let you know why I'm calling and you
Yeah.
tell me if it makes sense to continue. Part of the onboarding process when we bring in new clients is for them to identify the titles of the prospective, people that we need to be in front of. But you're right, titles vary and roles change. You run a lead list and it's obsolete as soon as you run it, right?
Yeah. So when you say data management, because I want to bust another myth that, oh, you should never buy a list. Buying a list, that's the worst crime in the world. There are reputable, high integrity sources of real leads, real lists with real people that's fresh and current and up to date. And there's a lot of garbage in that industry also.
Yeah.
You've obviously identified some trusted partners that provide you with data.
Mhm.
Talk about the difference between kind of random data that you'd get, from a spam email that you receive versus going to a proven reputable list broker.
Well, we use Data Axle, which is owned by Info USA, the number one data provider. But I want to let everybody know only 80% of the data is accurate. Only 80%. And so you're not going to get 100% quality leads. Part of prospecting is to dig and to, correct it, update the information in the database. And, as I said, as soon as you run a lead list, it's obsolete. So we use Data Axle, and we have another lead service that we use if we scrub the leads from Data Axle through this other provider to get more direct dial phone numbers and sometimes multiple email addresses.
Do you love selling? I know, me too. Do you hate selling? I know, me too. Listen, fantastic sales book you got to get your hands on. How do I know? It's mine. That's how. Do It Selling is now available for sale. Grab your copy, grab all the bonuses, all the companion tools, all the training, all the videos that go with it at doitselling.com. See you over there.
Tell me a little bit about some of the other programs and services. So what are all the different menu items at One of a Kind Sales? How can people tap into your expertise?
Sure. Well, another product line is what we call call center in a box. That's when we work with inside sales reps and we put them through our portal. In many organizations, managers just don't like managing inside sales reps. And, they really need to be encouraged and managed because it's a thankless job in many organizations. So they engage us, we put them through our portal, and what management gets in return is a dashboard of metrics. So they know who the performers are. They also know who the underperformers are and what kind of training that person may or may not need. And we provide coaching and, support. Sales is all about communication. That's what selling is. Are you familiar with DISC?
Yes, of course.
Okay, so we're trained in that. And as a matter of fact, in our mastery class tomorrow, they're going to have a whole program in that. And, by studying different communication styles in business and in life, you get more of what you want to get. You can be persuasive.
So as we're recording this, it is Cyber Monday today.
Yeah.
So the day after the Thanksgiving weekend. A lot of professional service providers, they say, you know what? December is a wash. December, I can't get anything done. No one's in the office. Everyone's in holiday mode. No one's thinking about buying. No one's thinking about setting an appointment. Nobody wants to talk to me. Nancy, true or false? And talk to us.
Wrong, wrong, wrong. You're a fool if you don't take advantage of the good spirit in the month of December. It is totally a misnomer that people are not receptive. Look, you and I are working. People just don't stop working in December. They're in great moods. And, as I said earlier, before we started, we make appointments during Christmas week. And you know what? People that aren't doing it, they are, again, leaving money on the table. So I say take advantage of it for sure. Another month of the year where people think nobody does anything is August. And that is also inaccurate. Not everyone takes the month of August off. And companies, they prepare for the launch after Labor Day. Why start preparing after Labor Day? You have, a leg up with your competition. So do it. People are happy. They smile, and you can hear their smiles through the phone.
Yeah, no, I love that. So December, jump in. August, jump in. The two natural starting points, at least in my experience with my clients, my audiences, they experience a spike in January because budgets have reset, and January, new start, new year, resolutions, call it what you will.
Right.
So there's a natural spike in January, also a natural spike in September. Back to school, back to work, time to dig in. The kids are back where they belong, and people are now serious. How can we also take advantage of that January kind of new year, new landscape, and also September, back to work, back to school? Is that a great time to also dig in and double down?
Well, I say if you want to really kick it in hard in January, then start onboarding in December.
Yeah.
Same in September, start onboarding in August. So you've got everything in order and you can just, get a head start right out of the gate. It's interesting you say about the budgets, though, because in my business, I find even though companies have budgets, most of the decisions to move forward are more in March and April, not
Mm,
necessarily in January, because they're still figuring out what to do. Not sure. I
yeah.
mean, obviously, companies do onboard and start the campaigns in January, but also March and April is also a good time for us.
Yeah. It's funny. This actually reminds me of a David Sandler story. I think it was Sandler that he says, oh, the holidays are terrible. You can't sell anything during the holidays. January, oh, totally no. February, everyone's, Valentine's Day. March, oh my goodness, March, terrible. Spring cleaning. So he goes through this whole litany and he says, really, there's just hardly no good days to sell. But the problem with that is I need to sell every day because I'm not sure what those 2 good days are.
Right. You can make a million excuses not to do it.
Yes.
And I just say, I'm the Nike girl. Just do it.
Yes. Well,
Do it.
we
And
have that
yourself.
completely in common. So talk about the close the deal service, because that obviously has a catchy name. What is the close the deal service?
That is where we provide training. Actually, my Sandler trainer and I will work with organizations and come up with a structure for their sales reps. I keep talking about training, and I don't care how experienced you are in sales, you still need to invest in yourself.
Yeah.
And so we have that program where we work with individuals, not necessarily inside sales reps, it could be them, but just other sales reps. How many people, let's think about this. You get a qualified appointment, but if the appointment doesn't go to close, what's the point, right? And a lot of sales people, unfortunately, don't know how to close. They don't know how to close, and closing does not need to be difficult. If you ask the right questions to uncover their pain and really listen to what their frustrations are, a natural close would be, what would you like to have happen next?
Yeah.
Easy.
Yeah, for sure. So you have a podcast, my friend. It's called Conversational Selling.
Mhm.
Talk about how that podcast came to be and what it's about and what some of the guests are that you've had on recently.
So going back to COVID days, when COVID hit, I went, uh-oh, I got to do something different. And we had a client at the time who also does podcasts for his audience and also writes books. So this book, The Inside Sales Solution, was written for me, but it's in my voice. And so I thought, I can pretty much talk to anyone, anywhere. Why not do a podcast? So I launched my podcast. It was in June of that year. I mean, the first couple of ones were horrible. I was a nervous wreck. And what I learned in podcasting is it's just fun. It's fun. I like you said, we like to showcase our guests. And in the beginning, I had a mix of guests, but it's really, I like speaking with sales and marketing experts. Anything around the art of communication is really fun for me. And my center of influence world has greatly increased as a result of it. And I've gotten business from the podcast. One thing for me, my podcasts are 18 to 20 minutes TED Talk time. And I always ask my guests, what they would want me to showcase. And then we let it go where it goes. And, only one time Alexa went off in the middle of the podcast. And I have 2 dogs. Only one time, one of them barked. And outside of that, it's just a great conversation. You meet so many people that way. How
Yeah.
about you? How do you find yours?
It's been great. So this podcast is, for me, selfishly, yes, it's a great way to serve our audience. It's a great way to introduce amazing resources like you to our audience. But I get free consulting. I get to talk to all these amazing experts. And the questions I'm asking, yes, I'm channeling the listener, but it's
Right.
like, also, it's like, hey, like, should I have a cold calling strategy? Should I be doing this on social media? Should I be doing that with my books? Should I be doing this with my
Absolutely.
training program? So whoever the expert is, I'm like, hey, your 30 or 40 minutes of free consulting starts now.
That, you know what? It's true. Do you know,
Because you
I've
learn
learned
so much, right? You
so
learn so much from your own guests.
Absolutely. And the
Yeah.
nice thing is now my guests invite other guests for me. They
Right.
have a sense of our conversation. I was fearful that I wasn't going to have enough, but now my podcasts are running 2 months out. So I have plenty of guests. And, I always ask, who do you know that would make a wonderful guest on the show?
Yes, absolutely. So you have a great hosting strategy, but you also have a great guesting strategy. So I'm looking on your website and some of the interviews you've been on. So you
Mhm.
were on my friend Bryn Tillman's podcast.
Yep.
She had you on, and then a whole bunch of other cool people. Tell me a little bit about your guesting strategy in addition to your own show.
If somebody asks, I will do it. Why not? Again, it's a way for me to be showcased, and I just really enjoy it. Going back to cold calling, I have no trouble speaking with strangers.
Yeah.
Never. Don't get me in front of a large audience, believe it or not. I don't like public speaking,
Yeah.
but over the phone, over the video, I'm very natural.
Interesting. So tell us a little bit about your team, because I know that you have this skill set. You have this, I want to say natural ability, but let's face it, everyone has gone through a lot of training and a lot of
Sure.
study and a lot of intentionality. What kind of background should they have? What are you looking for behaviorally? What are you
Uh,
looking for overall?
we have a pretty rigorous hiring process. So when somebody has expressed interest in joining the team, I send them a script and I want them to send me a recording of them reading through the script. And I'm not looking for perfection, but I'm looking to listen to how they naturally sound. That's one. Then I put them in front of my recruiter, who's she's a business coach, but is very good on character traits. Every company has certain culture. And what's important is that we bring the people in that are a good fit for our culture. Believe me, like anyone else, I've made mistakes. If they pass my recruiter, then they come to me. And I want to get a sense of them, gee, can I work well with them? Are they fun? Fun is so important to me. We have people all over the world that have wonderful accents, very fluent in English. I think accents also are really interesting. I mean, I want to hire somebody from England because I love that accent, but I don't have anyone there yet. And I'm very lucky. When you think about the nature of our business, there's a lot of turnover. People get burnt out, but I have no turnover. And it's because of the training. And also, I think, my leadership style, which if you asked me this 30 years ago, I never guess I'd be a good leader, but I do a pretty good job of
Yeah.
listening to them and making them feel important and appreciated.
That's tremendous. Really,
Mhm.
really great. I want to go back to your roots in recruiting, because you mentioned that recruiting is one of the early businesses that you were involved in.
Mhm.
Am I correct that recruiting back in the day, like you said, no technology, phone and relationships, and that was it? Recruiters call both companies and employers, and they also cold call potential candidates to
Mhm.
see if they may be interested in switching companies, correct?
Yes.
So let's say I'm a recruiting firm today. I would probably be a good fit for becoming a client, correct? So if
Oh,
I don't
yeah,
want, yeah. So you would be my door opener, and then my recruiter would pick it up once there was some interest.
definitely.
Okay. So Can you give me the first 30 seconds of what this recruiting initial script might sound like? Understanding you, of course, customize it for every client, but give me
Sure.
just a feel so that people go, oh, that doesn't sound that bad.
So, David, hi, my name is Nancy Calabrese. We don't know each other. And that's usually they pause and they laugh and they go, oh, you're right. And then I'll say, look, I'm not sure you're the right person I need to speak with, but if you give me 30 seconds, I'll let you know why I'm calling. And you tell me, if it's fair to continue. And person always says yes. And so I work at XYZ recruiting firm, and we are representing a particular search for ABC. And the ideal candidate will do this, this, and this. Now, I don't want to pretend to know your situation, but does any of this sound interesting? And if not, is there anyone you know in your world that might be a good fit for the position? And then shut up.
There you go. See, it's not that bad. By the way, I'll tell you a fun personal story about recruiting. So back in the late 1990s, early 2000s, I was working in the technology field, technology consulting, ERP software.
Okay.
So Oracle, PeopleSoft, SAP, things like this. That market was so hot, I, as a candidate, an employed candidate, I would get these calls from recruiters literally every couple of weeks, like at least twice a month.
Yeah.
The good ones, meaning the ones that had an intelligent approach like you just outlined, I would talk to them. Even if I had there's 90% chance that I'm not going anywhere.
Right.
But, exactly how much more money are we talking? Oh, it's going to be at least 60,000 more than you're making now.
Right.
Okay, well, now I'm interested. Where is it? What kind of company? What kind of role? What kinds of things do you suppose I might learn? And I was just curious to kind of put feelers out.
Yeah.
They would call me, but if it's an intelligent person, I don't want to drop a term on you to see if this resonates, that really has a partnership mindset, that they're not just peddling or going through the motions, but they're actually interested in me and interested in gauging my level of, commitment or openness to a new opportunity.
Right.
I would talk to that person, and sometimes those calls would go 15, 20 minutes.
Yeah. I was lucky enough again to have the natural ability to engage with people. And one question I asked all of my candidates was, what factors would have to exist in a position that would make me think of you and call you? And I had all that written down. So the fact that when I would call back and I would say, David, I know when we spoke a couple months ago, you said A, B, and C were important. Has anything changed? And the reason I'm calling is because I have this opportunity. Another thing about recruiting and in sales, one conversation doesn't mean a sale. You could build that relationship for years and years and years until it's the right time. The important thing is to keep it top of mind. And so you have to have a process, a repeatable process to let people know that you're thinking of them.
Yeah. Now, let's also talk about voicemail, because I'm sure you get this question early on from almost every one of the clients that you work with. Nancy, does your team leave voicemails? Should we leave voicemails? What should be in the voicemail? Talk to me about voicemails, pros and cons, because I'm guessing a lot of the calls end up in voicemail.
Well, almost 100% in the beginning. That's the way of the world. Yes, you should leave voice messages. It doesn't cost anything.
Yeah.
Ideally, you would have a system that allows you to pre-record voice messages and not sound like a robocall. It's got to be human. The rule of thumb is you don't want to, this is a Sandler rule, spill your candy in the lobby, meaning do not leave a long-winded voice message about exactly what you need. You want to create curiosity. And nothing urgent, but I think it's important we speak. Maybe that would be a first one. And then the second one, you might add a little bit more. We have a series of 4 voice messages. And the last one is, we don't want to be a pest. obviously ABC is not a priority right now. Here's some information. We won't be in touch for a while. And so when we haven't spoken with that person, then they get recycled for 90 or 120 days. They'll be brought back into the system. And the key is repeatable professional touches. So I'm a big believer in voice messages. And what our system does is once we drop, say, voicemail number one, then an email number one is triggered, and that will be like a mirror of the voice message. So we like to make 2 touches a week minimally to our prospects.
And then you simply alternate, call 1, email 1, call 2, email 2. Are they value emails? Are there any resources in there, or it's just looking to get a reply?
It's just looking to get a reply. But when we have a decision maker on the phone and they request information, all of our clients provide us with an introductory email where we can either embed a video or attach some documents so they have something meaningful, to look at. Some people want to see information before they commit to an appointment.
Because sometimes that's also a way to get the caller off the phone, right? It's like, Nancy, sounds great. Send me some information.
Yep.
How do you parse out truly send me some information versus I'm just trying to get you off the phone?
Great point. Yep. It's a blow off in many cases. And so what we're trained to say is, gee, David, I'm happy to send you information. What's your email address? Got that. And then, or confirm it. And then we say, and what would you like to have sent? Okay. But, David, and I'm not sure this is the case here, but very often when I'm asked to send information, it's just a polite way to get me off the phone because they're not comfortable saying no. Is that the case here? I won't be offended.
Amazing how sometimes telling the truth and asking for the truth gets you, I don't know, the truth.
That's all you want. You can't force somebody to buy something they're not ready to buy.
Yes. That's such an important point. A lot of people think cold calling is about convincing or persuading or pitching.
Mm-hmm.
I'm guessing, Nancy, in your world, cold calling is about really filtering, sorting, qualifying, and disqualifying.
Correct.
We don't need to persuade anyone of anything if they're not interested, not relevant to them, not valuable to them.
Correct.
Hey, if you're loving this episode as much as I am, pop over to doitmarketing.com/manifesto and get your free 37-page download guide to how to sell smarter, sell more easily, sell more often. That's what we're here to help you with at The Selling Show. Off you go.
Well, tell us a little bit about the book. Tell us about some resources. Where can we send people if they want to dig into more Nancy brilliance?
Awesome. So Inside Sales Solution is a do-it-yourself. So for companies that are looking to build their inside sales team, there's a step-by-step outline of, how to go about doing this. And if you go to my website on the media page, you'll see my website is oneofakindsales.com, the media page, and there's a link to the Inside Sales Solution, and you can download a free copy. And I hope you all take advantage of that.
Excellent. And there's a link to all of that to Nancy's main website and a special link to the Inside Sales Solutions in the show notes directly under this episode. Well, Nancy,
Cool.
if folks were to take one overarching idea from our fabulous conversation today about cold calling, the value of telephone networking, any of the great things we talked about, what do you hope that one big takeaway idea would be?
If you don't pick up the phone and make those cold calls, somebody else is doing it and getting money that you could have probably gotten. You're leaving it on the table.
Ouch. Well put and totally agree. Well, Nancy Calabrese, you're a rock star. I appreciate you. Thank you so much for sharing your brilliance with us.
Oh, I loved it. Loved it, David. Have you been on my podcast?
I have not, but
Well,
we can fix
We
that.
are going to we're going to do that right after the show.
Tremendous. All right, my friend, I appreciate you.
Thank you.
And that wraps up another episode of The Selling Show. Hey, tell you what, if you like us, rate us and review us on Apple Podcasts, subscribe, tell a friend, go grab the notes and downloads and extras at thesellingshow.com. See you next time.